All new tonight, the leader of an East Coast company that provides security systems for Hawaii agencies is facing federal bribery charges.
Our chief investigative reporter Lynn Kawano shows us how the criminal case is impacting those services.
Some employees at the Department of Law Enforcement were interviewed by the FBI ahead of last month's indictment out of New York.
SaferWatch is a safety monitoring company that can instantly notify police of crimes or emergencies. The Ag Hotline, the Gun Tip Line, and the Illegal Fireworks Reporting System are all connected through SaferWatch. The company is also being piloted for a DOE school safety program with mobile and wearable panic buttons. Staff can bypass the 911 system and instantly notify police of a threat. It's all part of a 5-year contract with SaferWatch.
The DLE under the previous administration engaged in business with them since as early as June of 2023, and the most recent contract executed in May of 2024.
Last month, SaferWatch's CEO, Gino Rofaro, was indicted in connection with a bribery scandal on the East Coast. According to the indictment, an official with New York School District accepted bribes from Rofaro, tens of thousands of dollars in cash, along with paid trips to Vegas and the Bahamas. The court records also accuse Rofaro of funding expensive entertainment experiences, including chopper tours, tickets to Broadway shows, and meals at high-end restaurants, in exchange for a chance at lucrative multi-million-dollar contracts with the New York School District. Hawaii DLE Director Mike Lambert says the procurement process was scrutinized last August when the FBI was reviewing SaferWatch contracts.
Because it is a Fed investigation, I can't speak too much of it, but there were a lot of questions on, why the product was selected. We were served a document to produce records related to the procurement, as well as it's my understanding that people that worked with the SaferWatch, people within my office and that helped to procure, were also interviewed.
Lambert says there are no indications of any wrongdoing by DLE. The SaferWatch products are still online here. Rofaro stepped down as CEO after his arrest last month.
So it's a really, really great product, and it's just very unfortunate on what's occurring at the CEO level.
State contracts with SaferWatch run through May of 2029. I'm Lynn Kawano, Hawaii News Now.